In this lesson, I'm gonna cover absolute value. Let's call this lesson 1.1 absolute value. 7th grade. This is for 7th grade. So, what is absolute value? Normally, we used for absolute value to calculate distance. So, distance. So, if you left one point or you left one place and you go all the way to another place, that means you gain something. So there's no way you can have a negative, you know what I mean? So let's say you left here and then you went all the way there, so you gain something, right? So always the answer has to be a positive. That's why you calculate in distance. So when you're using absolute value, and always you want to end up with positive. For example, if you were given -5, okay, you were given -5, so the absolute value will be a 5, right? What about if outside? This has nothing to do with the absolute value. This is not inside the absolute value. This is outside, right? Calculating distance, we're talking inside the absolute value. -5 is inside absolute value, okay? And we're trying to get distance. But when the sign is outside, has nothing to do with the distance absolute value we are trying to figure out. So this is inside become 5, and outside you have negative, it goes there, right? Because this was outside. But when inside, it become positive. Any negative inside the absolute value become positive. If the sign outside, carry, you need to carry. So absolute value, normally you are trying to calculate a distance, starting point is and you go somewhere, you end up with positive. So you need take off the negative, right? So this the statement, right? So if you have like this, it's true, right? Because this is outside. So if it's like this, also is true, it's only positive because the negative is inside. Let's say you have fraction -3/4 absolute value. So you have to give a positive, right? Any negative inside the absolute value, change to positive, right? So, okay. So let's say what is let's say what is the absolute value for let's write it down, point -3, right? So the absolute value of point -3, it is going to be what? A positive. You want to take off the negative. So all you gotta do, you just put the -3 with absolute value, so you end up with 3. What about 7, which is already positive, plus -3? And then you end up with this way, 7 plus 3 equal to 10, right? So because -3 become a positive, so once it become positive, and your 7 also was positive, so you end up with a 10, right? What about -1.5? It end up with 1.5. Absolute value, always you changing the negative to positive. That's all, right? So statement, always what is you are doing here is a distance. Anytime we're talking about the absolute value, we are trying to calculate a distance between one point to another point, or you start one place for walking or driving and then you go to another place, so you can have a negative because you gain something, right? Few miles you walk it, you gain something. But if you start from negative, you have to end up with positive, so that's why we're trying to rid off the negative. So let's say this one is what? -10 and 5. What is the distance, right? So minus 5 to 0 is what? Another 5. 0 to 5 is another 5. So minus 15 equal to 15. This is how you write, right? So starting negative, going all the way to the 5, right? So you did what? A 15, right? My negative 10 to negative 5 is negative 5. That's 5 unit. You moved 5 unit. All the way to 0, another 5 unit. All the way to the 5, another 5 unit. 5, 5, 5. So negative 15 become a 15 unit, which become a positive. That's how you do for when it comes the absolute value. Just try always take out of the negative, change to the positive, unless it's outside like showing here, because this is not inside. This for the lesson 1.1 7th grade absolute value problems.